The Nevada desert was quiet. Too quiet. 12 of America's best snipers had fired. 12 missed. And then, a calm voice broke the silence. "Permission to try, sir?" No one expected her to speak, because she wasn't one of them. She wasn't a sniper. She was just a logistics officer. At least that's what everyone thought. The sun burned high above, turning the air into a blur of heat. Steel plates shimmered miles away, almost invisible. The men laughed, hiding their frustration behind jokes. A Navy SEAL leaned back, smirking. "Any snipers want to try?" he mocked, voice full of pride. Laughter followed, but she didn't laugh. She just adjusted her cap and started walking forward. Every boot step in that dry sand sounded louder than the rest. Every man turned to look. Some grinned, some frowned. No one took her seriously, not yet. Her name, Captain Rachel Dawson. To most, she was the officer who counted bullets and checked boxes. But inside her chest, an old rhythm was waking up. A rhythm she had buried for years. You see, Rachel wasn't just another soldier. Once, a long time ago, she was someone else. Someone who could read the wind before it touched the flags. Someone who could feel a bullet's path before it even left the barrel. Someone who used to live behind a scope. But that was before the silence. Before the ghost she carried started to whisper. The SEAL who mocked her, Chief Jared Cole, leaned against a Humvee, arms crossed, sunglasses hiding his smirk. He was everything Rachel wasn't. Loud, confident, worshipped by rookies who wanted to be just like him. 3 tours behind him. Too much swagger for one man. When he saw her step toward the bench, his grin widened. "Oh, this I gotta see," he said, chuckling. "Let's see what supply school teaches these days." The men laughed again, but Rachel didn't flinch, didn't smile, didn't even look their way. She set down her clipboard, rolled up her sleeves, and walked to the rifle. The desert went still. Even the wind stopped playing. It was as if the whole world wanted to watch what would happen next. She touched the rifle like it was an old friend. Bolt back, check chamber, adjust scope. Every move, precise, controlled. The kind of discipline you only see in someone who's been there before. The SEAL frowned. "You sure you know what you're doing, Captain? That's not a typewriter." Rachel's voice was calm, low, steady. "I'm aware, Chief." The smirk on his face faded just a little, because there was something in her tone, something that didn't belong to a beginner. She picked up one single round. Golden brass caught the sunlight. She rolled it between her fingers, then whispered, 2 grains off standard." She swapped it for another without explanation. The crowd behind her fell silent. Something in the air changed. Then she lay down behind the rifle, her cheek pressed to the stock. Her breath slowed. The world shrank, until all that existed was her, the trigger, and the shimmering plate almost 4 kilometers away. Cole folded his arms, smirking again. "Any day now, Captain." She didn't respond, just whispered softly to herself, "Target 3,800 meters. Wind, northwest, 11 knots. Left correction, 1.6 mil." To the men behind her, it sounded like numbers, but to her, it was music. She inhaled once, exhaled slow, heart rate 52 beats per minute. And then, she squeezed. The rifle roared. The echo slammed against the mountains. Dust exploded around her. Then, silence. 4 seconds of nothing. Then came the sound that froze everyone in place. Ping. That pure metallic ring dead. Center. Hit. The spotter blinked, unable to believe it, then shouted, "Direct hit! Dead center!" The desert fell quiet again. Every soldier stared. The SEAL's grin vanished. He snatched the binoculars, looked, and froze. A single hole right through the middle. Perfect. Rachel exhaled once, calm as ever, and opened the bolt. The shell casing dropped into the sand, shining like gold. Cole's voice cracked. How did you do that?" She looked at him steady. "Math," she said softly. No bragging, no pride, just truth. General Reynolds, an old man watching from the observation deck, lowered his binoculars slowly. He knew that name. He'd seen that calm before. 9 years ago, in Helmand Province. A sniper who saved an entire convoy with a shot through a window, almost 3 kilometers away. The code name had been Ghost 3, and now she was standing right here. Cole stepped forward slowly. "That was luck, right?" he muttered. Rachel's eyes didn't waver. "No such thing as luck at 3,800 meters, Chief. Only math and breathing." The men who had laughed before now stood silent. No one dared to joke. They just stared, not at a logistics officer, but at a legend. Cole swallowed, pride gone, and raised his hand to salute. A real salute, strong, respectful. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "that was something else." Rachel returned the salute, her face calm, almost sad. She turned away as the sun dipped. "Hello," the golden light reflecting off the single bullet hole in the steel. One perfect shot, one perfect moment, and the legend of Ghost 3 was alive again. The desert was silent again, but this time it wasn't the silence of failure. It was respect. It was awe. And somewhere between the wind and the echo of that shot, a legend had just come back to life. Rachel stood still, her hand resting gently on the rifle. Not proud, not smiling, just calm. Because for her, that one shot wasn't about showing off. It was about remembering who she used to be. General Reynolds walked down from the observation deck. His boots crunched softly in the sand, each step carrying the weight of recognition. He'd seen a shot like that before, once, years ago, in Afghanistan. He stopped a few feet away. "Captain Dawson," he said, voice steady but thick with emotion. "That was the finest display of marksmanship I've seen since Bagram." Rachel stiffened. Her reply was automatic. "Thank you, sir." The general studied her face closely. For a moment neither spoke. Then a flicker of realization crossed his eyes. "I didn't recognize you at first," he said softly. "Been a long time since Helmand Province." Rachel froze. Her heart skipped. She looked up, eyes sharp. "You were there?" He nodded slowly. "I was." Then his voice carried across the range, louder, proud, and full of truth. "Thank you for your service. Ghost 3. The words hit the air like thunder. The soldiers looked at each other, whispering, "Ghost 3? No way. The Ghost 3? The name every sniper had heard, but no one had ever seen. The ghost who could read the wind like a language. The legend who made impossible shots seem easy." And now, as she was standing right in front of them, Cole's mouth opened slightly. "Ghost 3, he whispered. Then, for the second time that day, he saluted her. This time, not out of duty, but out of respect. One by one, the others followed. A line of soldiers standing tall under the burning sun, their laughter gone, their pride replaced by silence. Rachel didn't bask in it. She just returned the salute, calm, composed, like someone paying respects to ghosts only she could see. The wind swept across the range, carrying dust and memory. The single bullet hole on that steel plate glowed in the fading light, as if the sun itself was bowing to it. That evening, the armory was quiet. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly. Metal clicked softly under careful hands. Rachel sat alone at a workbench, cleaning the same rifle she'd used that morning. Piece by piece, not like a trophy, but like a ritual. The empty shell casing from her shot lay beside her, still warm, still shining, still whispering the truth she'd tried to forget. The door creaked open. Bootsteps echoed. She didn't look up. "Still awake, Captain?" She smiled faintly. "Couldn't sleep, sir." General Reynolds stepped in. No hat now, no rank between them, just 2 soldiers, one old, one haunted. He watched her clean the rifle for a moment, then said, "You always do this yourself?" "Always," she replied softly. "They talk to you if you listen long enough." The general chuckled quietly. "That's what my sniper instructor used to say. Never thought I'd hear it again." He sat down beside her. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was heavy, filled with things neither had said yet. "You knew who I was," Rachel said at last, eyes still on the rifle. "I did," Reynolds admitted. "But I didn't believe it until today." She nodded slowly. "Most people didn't, that was the idea. Then Reynolds said the name that made her hands freeze. Operation Iron Veil, Kandahar, 2016. She stopped cleaning, didn't look up, didn't need to. She remembered every sound of that day, every scream, every silence. I read the after-action report, he said quietly. 6 went in, only 1 walked out. Her hands trembled slightly. They were good people, she whispered. So the best. Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. We went in thinking it was a quick extraction. Intel said minimal resistance. She swallowed hard. It wasn't. Reynolds nodded. I saw the drone feed. You held position for 49 minutes, under fire. You covered their retreat until evac arrived. Her eyes stayed on the rifle pieces, but her voice turned hollow. They didn't make it, sir. None of them. That wasn't your fault, he said softly. Rachel finally looked up, eyes tired but sharp. Fault doesn't care who you blame, sir. I pulled the trigger. I ended lives, friendlies or not, after a while. You stopped counting the difference. The room went silent again. The hum of the light above them sounded like static in her ears. When the debrief ended, she said, I asked for a transfer to logistics, no more rifles, no more ghosts. Reynolds looked at her, eyes full of quiet understanding. You weren't running away, Captain. You were trying to breathe. Rachel gave a small, tired smile. Maybe, but I built a quiet life here. Numbers, ammo counts, and silence. It was easier that way. Reynolds nodded. Until today. She let out a long breath. Yeah, until today. The general reached into his coat and placed an envelope on the table. It was thick, stamped classified. What's this? She asked. A proposal, he said. Joint Command is building a new counter-sniper defense unit. They need someone who understands both sides of the scope. Rachel stared at it. Her voice was flat. And you think that's me? Reynolds didn't blink. I don't think, Captain, I know. She laughed, just once, bitter and soft. I'm done with that world, sir. Let someone else carry the weight. He leaned forward. There are younger shooters, sure, but none with your mind, none with your instinct. He paused, then said quietly, Sometimes God gives marksmen not to take life, but to save it. The words hit her harder than any bullet ever could. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then she whispered, You really believe that? Reynolds nodded slowly. I've seen enough wars to know we need people like you, people who remember what it costs. He stood, straightened his uniform, and picked up his cap. You could teach them, Rachel. You could stop others from making the same mistakes. She didn't answer. He walked to the door, paused, and looked back once more. If you change your mind, he said softly. The program starts in 3 weeks. You'll have full clearance. Then he left, and the room felt colder. Rachel sat there a long time, staring at the rifle, the same one she promised never to touch again, the same one that reminded her of who she was and who she'd lost. Outside, the desert was dark. But in that darkness, a single metallic echo from the day still lingered. That perfect shot, that perfect sound. It whispered one truth she couldn't ignore anymore. You can leave the battlefield, but the battle never really leaves you. The room was dark, only the faint hum of lights above. Rachel sat still, staring at the brass casing beside her tools. It gleamed faintly, the reminder of everything she'd buried. She'd promised herself she was done. Done with rifles. Done with ghosts. Done with being that soldier, but peace never comes easy to those who've seen war. Outside, the desert wind whispered through the open window, and then her phone buzzed. A small, steady flash of green. A secure line. Joint Command. She stared at it for a moment, hesitated, then answered. Captain Dawson, came General Reynolds' voice, low and urgent. Report to comms now. She didn't ask why, didn't even think. Training took over. She was already on her feet before the call ended. The night was cold. The base slept under a sky full of quiet stars. Rachel's boots echoed on the concrete as she moved fast toward the command trailer. Guards nodded her through. Inside, blue light flickered off screens showing maps, coordinates, and faces. General Reynolds stood at the main console. No smile, no small talk. Just the truth. There's chatter, he said. High confidence. An obsidian terror cell is active in 3 countries. And one pattern points here. To the upcoming joint military summit in Washington. Rachel frowned, eyes scanning the data feeds. Satellite overlays, intercepted comms. A face on screen, cold eyes, sniper's precision. Why me? She asked quietly. Reynolds turned to her. Because they're using methods you've seen before. Long-distance staging, crosswind masking, mirrored scopes. They're trained. Not random shooters. They're professionals. Ghosts just like you. The word hit her like a pulse. Ghosts. He stepped closer. We need someone who can think like them, before they pull the trigger. The room went silent. Everyone watched her now. The woman who had become a legend that morning. Reynolds slid a classified folder across the table. You'll have full command over a small task force. Intel, tech, and ballistics experts under you. Your job, build a counter-sniper plan and stop the strike. Before it begins. Rachel's jaw tightened. Inside, her mind had already started working, scanning variables, weather patterns, angles, ranges, like her brain was made of crosshairs and math. But outside, she looked calm. Too calm. If I go, she said slowly, I want full access and all files, no redactions. Frank Collins on my side for ballistics. And I don't want Pice anywhere near the deployment schedule. Reynolds blinked, then nodded. Done. You'll have what you need. He paused, his voice softening. But Rachel, you'll be under a microscope this time. The world's watching. Every move, every word. Rachel looked at him, eyes steady. I'm not doing this for the world, sir. I'm doing it for the people who never came home. Reynolds nodded once. No more words. Because he knew and the ghost was awake again. Later that night, back in her small room, she sat at her table, a few old photographs spread in front of her. Faces smiling in the desert sun. Names stitched on dusty uniforms, Michael, Amanda, Hawkins, Decker, her old team. Her family gone. She ran her thumb over the edge of a photo. You were the best, she whispered. They deserved more than silence. A tear finally fell, the kind she hadn't allowed in years. And in that silence she made a quiet promise. If I can't bring you back, I'll make sure no one else has to feel this pain. That was her answer. Not duty, not orders, just truth. By morning, the decision was made. Her new orders were waiting on the table. Clearance granted. Task Force Ghost initiated. Frank Collins, an old friend, a mentor, and one of the best ballistic minds alive, was already waiting for her in the hangar. He looked up as she walked in. Same old grin, same rough voice. Didn't think I'd see the ghost again, he said. She gave a small smile. Neither did I. He handed her a folder, thick with data. 6 recruits. Different branches. They're good, but raw. Rachel scanned the names. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, a mix of talent and trouble. She looked up at Collins. They'll do. The next day, dawn broke over the Nevada desert again. This time not for testing, but for training. Her team waited on the range, curious and tense. No one knew what to expect from the quiet woman who'd become a legend overnight. Rachel stood before them, clipboard in hand, wind brushing her hair. You're not here to prove who's the best, she said calmly. You're here to learn how not to miss. And that means unlearning half of what you think you know. A few smirks, a few eye rolls, but none spoke. She pointed toward the targets, glimmering in the desert heat. Precision isn't strength. It's patience. Control the noise in your head before you try to control the rifle in your hands. The tone in her voice, firm, quiet, unshakable, made even the cockiest Marine straighten up. Training began before sunrise, ended long after sunset. She didn't shout, didn't boast. She showed. She made them sit in silence, just listening to the wind. Watching the flags, learning how air bends light, how heat lies. Don't fight the wind, she told them one evening. Read it, feel it, respect it. The recruits grumbled at first. Then slowly they began to understand. It wasn't about power. It was about harmony. Days turned into weeks. The team grew sharper, tighter, quieter. The Marines stopped bragging. The airmen started smiling again. Even Collins admitted, I think you're building something special here, Ghost. Rachel just nodded. She didn't say it out loud, but she felt it. Purpose. For the first time in years, the noise in her head had started to fade. Maybe this was healing. Maybe this was her second chance. But peace never lasts long for people like her. It started with something small. Too small. A few coordinates in the system that she hadn't entered. Encrypted codes that didn't belong to her team. At first she thought, maybe it was an error. But then the feeling hit. That same cold, familiar dread. The same kind of mistake that had cost lives in Kandahar. She checked logs again. Remote access. Hidden trails. Someone was feeding information to the enemy. Her stomach twisted. She didn't tell her team, not yet. They were her responsibility. And she wouldn't break their trust until she had proof. That night she typed a coded message to Reynolds. Possible data breach inside task chain. Request silent trace. Team unaware, then she deleted it. No trace. No risk. She sat in the dark again, staring at the sandstorm outside her window. Her hand trembled slightly. Not again, she whispered. Not this time. The Nevada sun rose red that morning. A warning. The kind of red soldiers recognize without needing words. It was supposed to be a drill. Just a simulation before the summit. But deep down Rachel felt it. Something was wrong. Too many movements on the radar. Too much silence on the comms. She adjusted her earpiece. Team Bravo, report, static. Then a crack of gunfire tore through the calm. Real bullets. Real chaos. Rachel's blood ran cold. This isn't a drill, she shouted. All units, defensive positions. Her instincts took over. The calm she once feared came back. That deadly stillness inside her that only appeared when it mattered most. Through her scope she scanned the ridge. Nothing. Just heat and dust. Then a glint far out, almost invisible 500 meters away. Same angle, same distance, same shot that had made her a legend. Collins. She barked. Wind reading. He squinted through his meter. 11 knots west, cross-drift increasing. She adjusted the dial. Her voice dropped to a whisper. 3.2 mil up. 1.4 left. The world around her disappeared. All that remained was the scope, the breath, the target. Then she saw it. The faint outline of a rifle. And a hand, steady, trained, patient. Another ghost. Rachel's heart slowed. One breath in. One breath out. She squeezed the trigger. Her rifle thundered. A single round ripped through the air. 3 seconds later, boom. The enemy's shot detonated mid-air, cut short by her own bullet. The explosion echoed across the desert like thunder trapped between mountains. Silence followed. Complete silence. Then Colin's voice, low, stunned. Target neutralized. Rachel exhaled, her body trembling but steady. All teams secure the perimeter, she said calmly. No losses today. Her words were final, firm, like a promise fulfilled. Hours later, she walked across the scorched sand. The air still smelled of smoke and gunpowder. They'd recovered the enemy rifle. It lay beside the fallen shooter, a young man, barely more than a boy. His eyes were still open, full of disbelief. Rachel knelt beside him. Her hand brushed the rifle stock. And then she froze. Carved into the wood were 2 letters. J.H., her breath caught. James Hawkins, her old team leader. Her mentor. The realization hit like a slow, sharp blade. Whoever trained this shooter learned from him. From the same man who once trained her. For a long time she just stared at the initials. Not with hate, not even grief, but understanding the circle had closed. The war she'd been carrying inside her for 9 years was finally over. Footsteps approached. General Reynolds, his voice was quiet. You did more than stop an attack, he said. You proved that ghosts can come home. Rachel looked toward the horizon. The smoke was fading. The desert was calm again. Soldiers stood in silence. No cheering, no clapping. Just quiet respect. She nodded once, accepted their salute, and turned away, believing the battlefield behind her. Behind her, the wind carried a familiar sound, a faint metallic ring. That perfect shot, echoing through time. Weeks later, the Nevada range was peaceful again. New recruits lined up, rifles ready. The next generation. Rachel walked slowly behind them, offering quiet corrections, small nods of approval. Her voice was calm, steady, sure. Never chase the kill, she told them. Chase the truth in your aim. The sun caught her profile, strong, composed, at peace. When the day ended and the last soldier packed up, Rachel lingered a little longer. Looking out at the horizon, the same ridge where her legend began, she smiled faintly, then turned toward the sunrise. Her boots left light prints in the sand, prints that faded quietly behind her. because that's what real heroes do. They don't shout. They don't brag. They just breathe, aim, and make the impossible look effortless. Some ghosts don't haunt the battlefield, they guide it. If this story moved you, salute in the comments for every silent professional who still serves with honor. Tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe for more true tales of courage, redemption, and respect. Because legends like Rachel Dawson never fade. They just wait for the wind and the perfect shot.